Yeah, I just hate it. It felt like we were in position. We talked about what our plan was going into and felt like we were executing that. Just needed a little luck there at the end to go with it. So, yeah, move on to California and see if we can improve. Obviously, we need to improve. We were at 34th again, so, yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Chase Briscoe done for the day here at Daytona.
In a matter of 5 laps, they restarted 9th and 10th. RFK Ford Mustangs working together. Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski have taken those Fords to the front of the field. It's Brad over Chris, and the new man in third is Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch is right there in the third spot. Austin Dillon, we have not talked about him much this afternoon. He is up to the number 4 position as they work their way off turn 2.
Roush Fenway Keselowski 1 and 2. Richard Childress Racing 3 and 4. Hendrick Motorsports position number 5. They've got a 4-car length breakaway over Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
And 2 laps ago, we were talking about A.J. Allmendinger. He was kicked out of line. He is back to position number 15 as the race leaders for now, singled out, led by Brad Keselowski.
8 laps to go in the great American race. Brad Keselowski has it up front. Chris Buescher, his teammate, his employee, rides second. Then it's Richard Childress Racing, third and fourth, with Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon.
Come into turn number 1. Everybody single file back through the top 5, 6, 7 positions. First side-by-side battle is for the 8th spot where Kyle Larson and Harrison Burton go nose to nose.
As the leaders come to the Daytona Super Stretch, Brad will bring the pack to the bottom of the back straightaway. Down against the double yellow line with Ty Gibbs right in front of him. Ty will move to the outside and let the pass down low.
Gibbs goes to the outside lane, well off the pace. Leaders to the bottom, led by Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon, the front 4.
I said you got to be in position with 10 laps to go. It's only 8 laps, so 7 laps to go right now. And Richard Childress Racing, those guys got to be licking their chops right now. They're in third and fourth with another Chevrolet of William Byron behind them. 2 Fords leading, and 2 Fords in the front, 3 Chevrolets behind them.
All right, pick out your favorite. Who's going to victory lane here in the 500? Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon, William Byron, top 5. They go nose to tail. Then it's Stenhouse, Logano, and Austin Cindric. Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, top 10, and they're in 3.
That's the way they run, getting down to crunch time. Nobody stepping out of line, though, right up at the bottom of the racetrack, continuing to be led by Brad Keselowski.
6 laps to go. The cards have been dealt. You know what you've got as far as the chips go. Will you go all in now? Will you save it? Will you bluff? Here they go. Nose to tail on the bottom of the racetrack. Back to turn 1.
Showtime at the Apollo as they hit turn number 1. It continues to be Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher. Buescher gives him a heck of a shove into turn number 1. Brad Keselowski right there at the front of the pack.
With Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon waiting in the wings, now soon to be joined by a 6th car in Stenhouse, a 7th with Keselowski, or make that Logano, and an 8th with Cindric. We're about to tighten up even more.
Austin Cindric, last car in this lead group, all still single file, all led by Brad Keselowski. Car length in hand and drafting help from his teammate Chris Buescher.
Brad Keselowski has won a lot of big races in his career. He's never won the Daytona 500. He's got his teammate right behind. 2 Ford Mustangs leading over 4 Chevrolet Camaros.
Brad Keselowski was in the media center yesterday, told reporters there aren't many things left on my to-do list. The Daytona 500 is job 1. He's close, but he's not there yet.
That Ford Mustang's going to get awfully wide coming up. Brad Keselowski leads. Buescher second. Now it is back to a 5-car breakaway as right now Buescher will pull him out even further in 3.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Joey Logano losing a little bit of ground, but they gained that ground back. They built a run into turn number 3. Stenhouse trying to make the move on Byron for 5th.
He gave a look to the outside of William Byron. Nothing there. Came back to the bottom. Nothing there. They tuck back in line and ride single file again. 4 laps to go in the Daytona 500.
Here they come into turn number 1. Everybody holding the cards close to the vest. Nobody ready to make their final play just yet. That 8 or 9 car draft trying to pick up a couple of more. Kyle Larson and Daniel Suarez closing in.
Here comes the move. Kyle Busch will jump to the outside of the racetrack. He's going to have help. He's got 2 other Chevys behind him. Buescher loses contact with Keselowski. Kyle Busch to the lead.
Kyle Busch to the race lead with drafting help from Austin Dillon and William Byron. Brad Keselowski and Chris Buescher on the bottom and all by themselves and going back backwards.
And that move has brought this crowd to their feet. We're down to 3 to go at Daytona. New race leader, it is Kyle Busch. There are 3 Chevrolets at the front of the field.
Now the question is, did Kyle pull the pin too soon? Because there is still time for a comeback or a counterattack to be launched. Kyle Busch, bottom of the racetrack. Austin Dillon right in his hip pocket. Then William Byron.
Well, he has 2 Chevys behind him. Speaking of Kyle Busch, the Fords are starting to get stacked up and organized. Kyle Busch leads Austin Dillon, William Byron, Logano, and Keselowski.
That first Ford is Joey Logano in position number 4, followed by Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, then back to Kyle Larson and Austin Cindric, all behind Kyle Busch. Trouble off turn 4, 1 car breaks loose. It's Daniel Suarez spinning to the apron of the speedway.
He'll dive down there, try to correct the race car. Caution is out with 2 laps to go. We're headed to overtime in the Great American Race. Daniel Suarez with a spin off turn number 4. He was running in the lead draft. Back into that race car, kicked sideways. He's come to a rest in the grass at the entrance to pit road.
Well, that's the last thing that Kyle Busch wanted to hear in his ear. Derek Nealon, the spotter, on the roof, coming over the radio, going, Kyle, caution, it's behind you. He was on his way, Rusty Wallace.
Man. I tell you what, Jeff, that's not the one thing that Kyle Busch wanted to hear, because I kept looking at those guys going, you know what? I think they can pull it off. They got enough Chevrolets stacked up. And Kyle had his teammate, Austin Dillon, right on his bumper. Hey, it's not over. They can re-rack and get after it again. But I'm telling you what, if they make it back without another caution, that's going to be surprising to me.
Remember we talked about the choose rule and how big it could be? It's going to be very big. We'll talk about that when we come back. Headed to overtime here in Daytona.
Where will your new Chevy take you this year? Anywhere. It's the perfect time of year to...
Daytona 500 as we head to overtime. From Daytona International Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
The streets of Chicago haven't seen anything like this. It's the NASCAR Chicago Street Race Weekend. July 1st through the 2nd. A 2-day racing and music festival featuring the Chainsmokers.
Of NASCAR. Now back to the race.
What a week it's been. It's just been absolutely spectacular, Alex, going all the way back, and Rusty going all the way back to qualifying. Alex Bowman putting his Chevrolet on the pole, and that kicked things off. Zane Smith picking up the win, the Craftsman Truck Series, and the Craftsman name back in the sport. Zane Smith doing what he needed to do to get the win there. We moved on Saturday. The ARCA race didn't disappoint, followed by the Xfinity Series race.
Yeah, Greg Van Alst picked up the win in the ARCA Menard Series race here at Daytona. His first career win, and I loved his line in victory lane. The first thing, guys like me aren't supposed to win here. And believe me, there's some guys out on the racetrack right now that might have that same mentality, that they don't feel like they've had that opportunity just yet, but it may be sitting right in front of them.
Then Austin Hill picked up the win last evening to win here at Daytona. So now it is a matter of who's going to win the Daytona 500. The choose rule comes into play. You know it from mile and mile-and-a-half racetracks, but you need to understand it here on the Super Speedway and the importance that it may play in determining who goes to victory lane.
They are single file. When they get to the start-finish line and get the one to go, there's an orange V painted in the middle of the racetrack about 70 yards past start-finish. The drivers will then have the opportunity to choose which lane they want to restart in. Inside or out, they got to go left or right of the orange V. It's paramount now to see what these two Richard Childress racing cars are going to do. Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon, they are the first two to choose.
Now, what we're talking about up here is, do they line up nose to tail and push each other, or do they block the front row? And they'll block the front row. Busch will go to the outside, Dillon will go to the inside, and what that means, more than likely, let the two drivers behind those two Chevrolets shove them. Whoever gets to the lead, do they cross over and pick up their teammate?
We'll see if the plan gets executed or if it will be all for naught. Now, if you're new to NASCAR, what is overtime? Well, overtime in NASCAR means green, white, checker. We have unlimited attempts at it. The green flag will come out. If we race back around and a caution happens before the leader gets to the start-finish line and takes the white flag, we'll slow them down and do the process over. We'll do that unlimited times. However, if the green comes out, we race under the green flag back to the start-finish line to the white flag, and the leader takes the white flag at the line. The next flag ends the race. If that means you stay green and race all the way back to the checker, so be it. If that means a wreck happens and NASCAR deems the track unsafe and they need to roll safety equipment immediately, they can put the caution out. The field will then be frozen, like what we saw yesterday in the NASCAR Xfinity Series Beef It's What's for Dinner 300. Austin Hill picked up the win because the field was frozen after the leader took the white flag.
You know what it looks like to see 101,000 people on their feet watching the final 2 laps of the Daytona 500. I have a feeling we are getting ready to see that right now. They have blocked the front row. That is RCR Chevrolet Camaros. Here comes the crowd to their feet. This is going to be good. Green, white, checkered flag. Unless we get a caution before the white. Kip Childress lights out on that Chevrolet Corvette pace car. He'll take the car to pit road. Then it's Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon, William Byron, Joey Logano in a pair of RFK Fords to settle it here tonight.
The important cars right now is that second row. Who's going to make the push? Who's going to dive out of line? Green flag is in the air. Great start for Kyle Busch. After the start-finish line, he crosses over in front of his teammate. RCR on the bottom of the racetrack, but here comes Logano.
So the Childress teammates execute the plan, but they're not out of the woods yet. Joey Logano charges to the outside lane. He's got drafting help up high, trying to make the move. He's only halfway up now on Austin Dillon. Now he'll go to the lead. Stenhouse in his hip pocket.
Meanwhile, on the outside of the racetrack, you've got Joey Logano. He's got drafting help from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Now, Kyle Busch not up to speed, fully on the backstretch. Stenhouse out of the pocket, and they're crashing further back. Dillon, Byron, Cindric, half a dozen, 10 cars, wad them up on the end of the back straightaway. It started just outside of the top 5. William Byron, one of the first cars to get turned.
And we just tore up a whole bunch of really good race cars. Maybe half of the field has come back around. The other half still straggling through 3 and 4. We are under caution.
Oh, my God.
We did not take the white. We will do this again.
Oh, my God.
Green, white. Before we get the checkered flag, let's go back out. Jimmy Johnson coming across the line. That Chevrolet used up, torn up. Several others are headed to pit road. Baggy, I think we knew it was going to happen. We just didn't know who was going to be in it.
I didn't think that we would get back to that white flag without another caution flag. What I was looking at was Kyle Busch, while he got that great restart, he all of a sudden started to labor on the backstretch, or somebody gave somebody else a huge run. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. pushed Logano into the clean air. And then Stenhouse changed lanes, pulled to the bottom. He took the lead, while at the same time there was contact. William Byron, Austin Dillon began to spin down to the inside. They were on the grass. They spun back up onto the banking and right into the face of traffic and took several cars along for the ride as well.
Most of those cars were trying to jot them down as they were crashing. Jimmy Johnson involved in the crash. William Byron, Corey LaJoie got some of it. Todd Gilliland, Austin Cindric, Harrison Burton, Noah Gregson, Ross Chastain, and Austin Dillon. I mentioned him a moment ago, so Austin Dillon in there. He also got a piece of that crash as well. There may be some other ones, but as they came by, whether they had significant damage or made their way to pit road, or some of those drivers not able to continue on, a host of cars wiped out, and it goes back, Jeff, to what we were talking about. If you're running in the race, coming to the checkered flag, you got a chance.
Yeah, right up until that happens, and to your point, we hadn't received the white. So if we really want to make your point and drive it home, we haven't taken the white. You need to be around, Rusty Wallace, when you take the white flag. We just wiped out, 10, 12 cars. We haven't taken the white flag. If you've got a car with no damage, you've got a pretty good shot. Real good shot.
And you've got another shot for another caution flag, too.
Well, you do have that.
I don't think it's over yet. I mean, I really thought that was going to happen because everybody was just jacked up and ready to go, and they didn't make it. Another bump drafting gone bad again in the middle of the back straightaway. We see that often here at Daytona. So we'll re-rack them, get back over, and try it again, guys.
Add Zane Smith to the damage list from the crash. Now, We're going to double overtime now. Dylan Welch, that begs the question, how close are we getting on Sunoco fuel in the tanks?
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. I'm on my way to try and maybe grab a crew chief or two to see just how close we are. But, yeah, everybody came in and basically just took a tank or a can of fuel there, just expecting to get to the end of this race. Now, they usually build in a little bit of a buffer in their calculation, so they're probably not in too much danger. But I don't think you want one more restart because it's definitely going to be close. So a lot of hearts beating pretty fast down here on pit road, especially amongst the leaders.
Yeah, I would imagine center of pit road to the exit of pit road. That is where Steve Post is. And an update on a very fast Ford. Is it still fast?
Yeah, Scott Graves just checked in with the crew chief of Chris Buescher, and the car is still fast. The car is still good. And he just radioed to Chris and says, we're still good for a few laps. I think I'm with Dylan. I don't think we want to go too many more, but at least when you look at the Roush Fenway Keselowski car, at least Chris Buescher, they feel like they're still good for another couple of laps here on the fuel mileage.
Well, Kyle Rickey, you've got a bird's eye view of the cleanup ongoing with these drivers not needing to continue to circle around and burn fuel. What's the cleanup scenario looking like?
Yeah, the final couple cars pulling away. You had Justin Haley coming around with some damage. William Byron going off on the hook, shedding a bit of debris in the process. Jimmy Johnson's car going off on the hook. And the final car is Austin Dillon on the apron of the racetrack. So it's going to be another lap or two, maybe three, before we're set to go back to racing. Still 6 or 7 safety trucks on the apron over there between 3 and 4, cleaning things up.
As it sits right now, 11 cars involved in the crash in the first overtime. We're headed to the second in just a moment.
Sir, are you aware you were going 40 miles an hour? This is a residential area.
On the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR. Now back to the race.
Add another ingredient to our recipe for our stew that we're cooking here. That is the Daytona 500. The fuel we heard from Steve Post and Dylan Welch is getting short in the tank. The cleanup is going to be extensive, Jeff Striegel. These cars are going to have to keep going under caution for a lot longer than they anticipate.
So you're saying you want to add oil dry to your stew because oil dry is what's being laid down right now, but it's being laid down virtually, at least right now, a third of the racetrack. That oil dry picks up off turn number 4. They are still applying it going down into turn number 1. Yes, they have a sweeper truck that is going to try to suck it up. If they end up needing to bring the jet dryers out here or the jet blowers out here to blow this off, that will be another lap or two. So you got to believe that they're watching the fuel gauge right now and looking around going, where, how soon are we going to get the indication, Steve Post, that we're going to go back under the green flag? Because I would imagine everybody right now is trying to calculate how far they can go on fuel.
Boy, and there are some nervous crew chiefs down here. I know anyone up front, unless they run out of fuel, are not coming in. I'm down here in the JTG Daugherty racing team, the Kroger team, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has been told by Mike Kelly that they think they're good for a few more laps. So they're hoping to be good for a few more laps. This is a great pairing here, by the way. Mike Kelly back at the crew chief job here for JTG. They had a lot of success back in the day, a couple of Xfinity Series championships. Mike's kind of always been in the car chief role with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and moved up to the crew chief role. And boy, I'm telling you what, this would be a heck of a way to start the partnership going to Daytona Victory Lane. So a lot of nerves, a lot of energy down here, and they are hoping that they'll get those jet dryers fired up and get those cars out, get the cars back under green flag conditions.
Yeah, they need the jet dryers because they're going to need to blow all this speedy dry off the racing surface that comes from the short straightaway all the way through the tri-oval, all the way down the short straightaway, headed to turn 1, down into turn number 1 as well. So there's quite the cleanup that's going to have to take place.
23 cars on the lead lap. It wasn't but a handful of laps ago when it was 33. We lost 10. Pit road is open, and some will take advantage, including the pair of RFK Ford Mustangs. Eric Almirola is going to make a stop. Here comes Brad. Here comes Chris Buescher and others. Dylan Welch, Brad is in front of you.
Yeah, and they just are obviously just going to top off here just to be safe. And that'll be all it takes, just a couple of seconds. Gotten a few more exact numbers from a couple of cars here at the front as well. Christopher Bell feels like they're plenty good, and Larson is not quite as good, but they still feel like they're fairly safe as well for a few more.
which is interesting in the different lines of thinking. If Christopher Bell's team feels like they're plenty good, they were last on pit road on the 8. As Dylan reported, Kyle Larson feels sketchy at best. They pitted a lap later than Christopher Bell on lap 179. The X factor in that is how much fuel did each team put in the car on that particular pit stop. None of us have that information at our disposal. Did they put one full tank in or just part of one can of fuel? Either way, it's going to play out really well. Let's check back in at the Advent Health Care Center in Kim Kuhn.
And Austin Dillon has been released from the Care Center. Bold move, you and teammate Kyle Busch choosing the front row to block. Looked like it was going to work. Ultimately, you get turned, though. What happened?
Yeah, we had a strategy there, and it just didn't play out. We weren't as good as some of the Fords being able to tandem and get hooked up. The 6 car just drove through the 24, and it's kind of what he does. His car's good enough where he can just drive through whoever he needs to and push them out of the way or wreck them. That's the desperation they're in right now. So yeah, I hate it because I was really wanting to get Kyle Busch in victory lane here at the Daytona 500. Looking back, probably should have been a little more selfish at that point, and I wish we would have just tried to block both lanes, truthfully. But it was one of those deals where it's a hard position to be in. I also wish it would have went to the white flag in the position we were in, but unfortunately not. Hopefully Kyle can still make something happen from 6th. RCR as a whole was pretty cool to get to where we got there, to be 1-2 at the Daytona 500 with 2 laps to go, I believe. So, oh man, sucks because you're that close to winning a second Daytona 500, and your teammate was really close to winning his first ever. So we'll take it and move on. And we did it with not the fastest cars, truthfully. It was just execution, and we didn't finish off the last part.
That's Austin Dillon. Great day for him until that last incident. We'll get a word with William Byron. What chaos out there? What could you tell us from your seat and what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't really see a lot. I was just trying to push the 3 to get him to the 8, and somehow we just got off center a little bit, and I wrecked him. So once he got off center, I was trying to check up, but I had the 6, in the back of me trying to push as well. So unfortunate. I mean, tried to just put ourselves in the right position. We're in a really good spot there, with about 2 to go, running 3rd before that caution. So it seemed like when they did the teammate restart, it really checked up the bottom lane, and I had made my bet of trying to take that lane to try to have momentum off of turn 2. So that was unfortunate.
William Byron done for the day.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate that. And for the drivers coming from the Care Center, unfortunately, they won't be around. They won't be the ones that are celebrating in victory lane, but they were the ones that were running at the front of the field at the time. We take a look across the racetrack. It was vacant over in victory lane here at the Daytona International Speedway. It's not vacant anymore. They are now waiting on the driver. We just don't know which driver it's going to be. I think the choose rule has added a ton to super speedway racing, especially now that we're down to this type of situation. We'll talk more about that in a moment with you, Alex Hayden. Let's visit with Jimmy Johnson. Unfortunately, way too early.
Good day until the end there. You were kind of meandering around the top 10 before that incident. Describe the incident and then your day as a whole.
Yeah, just a fun day in the Carvana Chevrolet. I'm so thankful to everybody at Legacy MC to give me a great piece. And, I felt like I was going to be in a top 10, top 5 position. I don't think I had the outright speed to win, but, just had a great driving car and a ton of fun today. So, plate racing, this kind of stuff happens. And I almost saw the white flag. I got close. So I kind of take that as a win, and certainly a great comeback from being gone for 2 years and to be in the mix.
Despite being out of the race, Jimmy Johnson with a smile on his face down here at the Care Center.
Yeah, you gotta give him all the credit in the world for coming back and wanting to come run the Daytona 500. Heck, he had to qualify his way into the Daytona 500. They come to the line, 1 to go given. Here we go with the choose. Race leader Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will go outside. Second place, Larson goes inside. Third place, Christopher Bell goes to the inside. And fourth place, Joey Logano will go to the outside of the second row. So Logano will go to the back bumper of Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Bet made. Now, did you pick the right choice? Did you make the right decision as to who to go with? Kyle Larson is getting the information and looking in the rear view mirror, and he sees the Toyota of Christopher Bell. On the other side of the equation, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. went topside. A quick look out the rearview mirror, and the voice in his ear tells him you've got Joey Logano. Now, it doesn't end right there. We just saw that. That's just the front 4 cars. We know there are going to be others that will factor into this. AJ and Kyle Busch are in row 3. Hamlin and Bowman have very fast race cars. Drop back a little bit more. You realize that Travis Pastrana in a Toyota is running in the 10th spot in Daytona as we wrap this thing up.
We know he's got no fear.
No fear.
And yeah, I think this is a great story to follow. We're not there yet. Yes, this is double overtime. And by mileage, by where we're at in mileage, I did some math. This is the longest Daytona 500 in history when it comes down to the mileage. And speaking of mileage, ironically, is there enough mileage left in these cars in the fuel tank to get them to whenever the checkered flag may be?
One thing we do know is that the RFK Fords have fuel because they came to pit road. That's the good news. They've got fuel, but the problem is they're way back. Brad is back in 16th. Chris Buescher is back there with them. So as we get ready to go, Kip's got the lights out. Corvette ready to come to pit road. Everybody on their feet. Overtime, green, white checker. Stenhouse on the inside or on the outside with Kyle Larson.
Green flag goes back in the air through the gearbox. They go outside lane, gets a bit of a push. Joey Logano shoving Ricky Stenhouse Jr., but the bottom has momentum as well.
Here they come into turn number 1. Everybody looking for a shove. Everybody looking for some help. Stenhouse by a bumper. That's about it. Back comes Kyle Busch on the inside. They are dead even as they make it to turn 2.
Side by side, Kyle Larson on the bottom. You've got Ricky Stenhouse Jr. top side. No one breaking out into 3 wide territory, although the numbers stack up top. Stenhouse and Logano 1 and 2 to the lead.
Top 6 cars break away. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., race leader, outside lane with drafting help from Joey Logano. Here comes Kyle Larson to the bottom. He is drafting help from Christopher Bell.
History about to be made. 1 lap to go in the Daytona 500. The white flag is in the air. This will make it official. Stenhouse now 3 wide. Here comes Kyle Larson right up the gut.
Larson looking to go up the middle and win himself the Daytona 500, but he's got no help right now. The challenge is for the lead. Joey Logano, oh, they're in the wall. A.J. Allmendinger is in the fence. The entire pack blows up. A number of cars crashing. Bubba Wallace is in it. Eric Almirola as the leaders race to the back straightaway.
Caution is on the speedway. The race is deemed official. NASCAR, by rule, who was leading when the caution flag gets called, that will be the winner of the Daytona 500. We're waiting for NASCAR to go over the video to be absolutely sure who the car was leading when the caution flag got called. We're waiting and waiting. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. comes to the line first, however. The caution flag and the checkered flag are out. As a matter of fact, Logano's going to go up and pass Ricky Stenhouse Jr. before he got there. But we don't know for sure exactly who the winner of the Daytona 500 is officially just yet. They're celebrating ongoing in the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. pit, but NASCAR is yet to make the determination official.
So it's going to come down to 3 cars. It will come down to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in a Chevrolet. It will come down to Christopher Bell in a Toyota. It will come down to Joey Logano in a Ford Mustang when the caution flag came out.
It is... We're waiting. Yeah, we're hearing that it is official. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won the Daytona 500 for JTG Doherty Racing. We'll wait and see on that one for sure. Well, we're waiting to see because NASCAR is still huddling up over there in race control. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and his team are celebrating at the moment.
Well, we'll continue to watch and monitor to see exactly what NASCAR has done. There is some celebration, but nothing has become official yet. The crash worked off turn number 2. Steve Post?
They are celebrating down here as if they've won it. I know we're still waiting for confirmation, but they are in meltdown mode down here. Mike Kelly down here, crew chief Mike. Welcome back to the crew chief gig, my friend.
Yeah, man. Man, I don't know what to say. If I told you that I didn't believe in this or I didn't think this was happening, I'd be lying. For the last month, we've tried really hard every day in the shop to try and change the culture around there. I've known this kid for a long time, and we've done a lot of good things together, and I never gave up on him, and I'm glad he never gave up on me. And I can't say how proud I am for everyone in this organization. We're a small team. We're 40 people. But 40 people aiming in the right direction, so we'll go to California, and I'm excited.
Congratulations, that's Mike Kelly, one of the real good guys in the garage area, and now a Daytona 500 championship winning crew chief.
Oh my God.
Man, thank you very much. At the start-finish line right now, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. pounds the roof of the car, pumps his hands in the air, and climbs up and celebrates with the fans here at Daytona. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has won the Daytona 500.
Where will your new Chevy take you this year? Anywhere. It's the perfect time of year to take your next adventure off-road in a powerful Chevy Silverado. Round up the whole gang for some family fun in a Chevy Equinox.
Hey kids, let's go.